Hello, my friends. Welcome to this OOcast experience. I'm Walter. I'm a temporary host for today's experience, and we have the pleasure to be here with Hugo Araújo and Marieke Akgül. Close enough. Nice to have you guys here. Also, Vini and Maya are here with us. And I'd like to start just saying a little bit about myself. I believe a lot in the regen movement. As of today, I work in an impact fund that focus exclusively in activist entrepreneurs that have causes, and that's why they set up their business movements, projects. And that's what I'm doing now, and I'm very happy to be participating in that. So first, I'd like to introduce Hugo. I've just been with Hugo once, so I would prefer for him to introduce himself. It's okay with you, Hugo? So the floor is yours.
Perfect, Walter. Totally. So thank you very much for hosting and for giving us this space. And I'm really happy to hold this space together, especially with you two. I think we are business souls that are reborning somehow, like the phoenix. And I feel honored in this place, talking with business people about nature. I think that means a lot in terms of regeneration. So my name is Hugo Araújo, and I'm a biomimicry professional. I also consider myself a biomimicry artist, but especially a human being, nature's organism. So I like to think that I belong to the whole ecosystem, and that I'm just doing my best in my present time to add value to wherever I am and whatever I do. So today I'm going to be mapping our conversation, doing my best. Sorry for all my mistakes already. But I feel really honored to be here. So Marieke, I met her also just once. So I think this is very unique and very authentic of this conversation, because we don't have like a full and super deep background on each other, but it is about to reveal itself. And I hope I can do a nice curation of this. But Marieke is a special person that is not just a biomimic from my perspective, but is also trying to do nature's economy emulation. And something that she brings to the table is interspecies communication. So I believe that she can add to the conversation the voice of those that are unheard. And usually we have this conversation just amongst humans. So my guess was what could happen if we bring different voices of nature into a business capitalistic conversation, and with all the heart that we have in between us. But please, Marieke, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, of course, and thank you for this small introduction. My name is Marieke Akgül. It's a Dutch name with a Turkish background, so this is why it's a little bit different to pronounce for some people. So pronounce it the way you want, it's all okay. I'm a shamanic animal communicator working in the field of biomimicry, and I'm the co-founder of Nature Economy, as you can see behind me. We are a non-profit organization that I'm running together with a shaman of the Sami, of the North European tribe. And we try to make indigenous and shamanistic knowledge known into the world of businesses, and to help people change their leadership in a more earth-based leadership, So this is kind of what we do. I have a background in marketing, which is completely different, but I can relate both in that sense to the natural world and the business world. And this is, I think, right now what we really need to do. And I'm really thankful for all of you to share this together with us. And I'm seeing this beautiful screen that Hugo is now making at the same time while talking. It's beautiful to see how he's mapping all these things that we talk about right now. So, Walter, I would love to give you the word back and to see what's going to be the topic of today.
No, I'm just by your introduction, I'm already extremely excited to hear more. I mean, you're talking about interspecies communication, and thank you.
Yes.
It's so good when we have the thing here to guide us, but also involving with marketing, with nature economy, and please tell us more about that.
Well, let's say it like this: is that
maybe begin with the start. How did it start?
Yeah, that's a good thing. It started years and years ago when my cats started to put voices in my head, and I didn't really realize what they were doing until I understood that they were telling me or giving me the date or the time that they would come back at night. And when I realized that, I started to manipulate that. And so we started to have these conversations, and I didn't know that it was telepathy that we were using. It took me a while to discover that, because I'm growing up as a Dutch person in Holland, and we lost our indigenous knowledge from here. We don't have ancestors really present right now who still live in a shamanistic way. So we have lost this layer in our society, and so if you look at shamanism, we look at the outside, we look to other cultures, we don't look at our own. So it took my own animals to relearn that. It took apprenticeships at shamans all over the world to really understand that I had to go back to my own nature and to talk to my own nature. And the more I did, the more they gave me messages about how they see the world, how they see us. And at one point, I was working with some councils of animals, and one of them is the Sacred Council of Ancient Wisdom, which is very interesting because they can answer a lot of questions about a lot of stuff that's going on in the world. And they asked me to be their spokesperson. And for me, as a Dutch person, that was quite a big ordeal, quite a big task. But the more I grew in it, lately, the more I feel it's really necessary to be the voice for those who don't have a voice in the human way. And at one time I was at this beautiful sacred fire, and I was talking to the fire like, who am I to be able to speak in this matter and for so many? And then the sacred fire answered that this is the language of creation, and that the language of creation is older than any tribe. It's older than any species of human that we know nowadays. So by doing this, honoring the language of creation, I honor creation itself. So therefore it doesn't matter where I'm from. And it is very beautiful to see also how different the world is seen through the eyes of the animals, through the eyes of the plants and the trees, for instance, but also through the eyes of nature spirits. And if you compare that with indigenous way of thinking and living, I can say that there's a lot of parallels going on. So actually, this is really also the subject that we kind of talk about, is that when we really immerse ourselves again in the ways of our ancestors, in the ways of how nature is normally working, and we take back our place in nature, we think and feel the same way as the animals do. We think and feel the same way again as nature does. So therefore there will no longer be any differences between us, and we will become part of that grid again.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for being here and for all of that. And Marieke, how Can you talk a little bit about nature economy as well? How is it organizing? What are you guys focused on?
Nature economy is founded last year at the end because we really realized that what COVID is doing right now too in the world is that the way our economy is working is no longer a good way, and it can no longer be continued like this. So therefore, not only us individuals have to change, but companies itself too. And we both realized, me and my friend, that there's a big gap between, let's say, science and magic. And there's a big gap between modern society and indigenous way of living. In general, people think the indigenous way of living is something from the past, but actually it's from the future. So if we could integrate that again and make that bridge, that means that we can live in correlation with nature, being in a full circular way of sustaining ourselves. So therefore it will not harm nature, but also not harm us, because we are nature. So if we are really going through those paradigm shifts and we really understand that we are harming ourselves long term by not taking care of nature, if we can have that mindset, that means that we really can go into a different state of mind. And so this is what we try to do with Nature Economy, this non-profit organization that me and Yongo Swani, the Sami shaman, are running together. And right now what we're doing, we're talking a lot with biomimicry to see if we can organize a lot of events, talking about interspecies communication workshops for biomimics, so that we can help science also to understand nature on a different level. But also we're organizing a lot of journeys to immerse people in nature the way we do, and let them feel from the heart and reconnect from the heart with nature, so that they will never feel alone again and really feel this heart connection with nature on a different level than what you do now when you walk in the forest. But if you now walk with an open heart and you really connect with the energies in the forest and connect with everything around you, you truly feel part of that, and you truly feel so much love coming from the plants and the trees. And just a simple idea, if you walk in the forest, a lot of time just try to touch the leaves. A lot of leaves never had the experience of how it is to be touched by a human, and even for them it's an experience. So just by touching it, really caressing just the leaves, and especially the young leaves, the new leaves, it's a beautiful experience for them, and it's a beautiful way of sharing love in a different way. So even that you can feel in your heart, and or just admire a flower and just really study it and look at the color and the depth and how many leaves does it have, and send it some love, and you will see that it really flourishes. So we organize a lot of journeys to really help people emerge in nature and to understand them, that that we are part of nature, and help them have this mind shift and paradigm shift, so that they themselves don't have to follow the rules, but they can feel that the change come from within.
Perfect. No, perfect. I had an experience like about 10 or 11 years ago. I went to a tribe in Amazon, in Acre, and they were friends of my friends, and since then we go every year there, and it's amazing. It's exactly what you're talking about. Like, while we're getting into the forest, it seems that everything becomes kind of organized inside. I think harmonic. It's like you were coming back home or something like that. and so much experience there. It's really, really amazing. Like if I don't go, like last year we didn't go because of the pandemic, obviously, but you feel like you need to reconnect, because in the city, I live in the city, and it's everything, it's a mess, right? I remember a story. Ailton Krenak, it's a friend of mine and a very important indigenous leadership here in Brazil, and he told me a story once about Davi Kopenawa. It's one of the leaders of the Yanomami, and they were recently invaded. They say discovered, but they were recently invaded from Brazil, and it was pretty recent. And Krenak went there to talk to him, and then he asked like 3 questions. The first one is, Krenak, these white folks, are they many? And then Krenak said, "Oh my God, there are so many. It's like all the stars in the sky, all the sand in the river. It's a lot of them." And then he said, "Oh my God. And what do they eat, Krenak?" And he said, "No, they eat everything. They eat the forests, they eat the mountains, they eat whatever it's in their front, they eat. They just eat." Oh shit. And then he said, "And where do they take a shit?" It was the third question. They shit all over. They shit the rivers, they shit the air. So it's 3 basic questions that with all our modernity, all our science, it seems that we didn't figure out. Like, we are too many, we eat everything, and we shit everything. So I don't know, it's just sad. And following that, Marieke, what is... No, that's not the question. I wanted to ask what is the solution. But what is the beginning of the solution? Because it seems that we are going in the opposite way. I don't know.
No, the solution, the beginning of the solution, as you call it, is that we still well, first we have to become aware. And we have to become aware of our effects, what we're doing to the world. And for that, we still have to do a lot of conscious broadcasting, like what we're doing today. This is also very important. We have to make people aware that what is their impact. And if we see now what Hugo is doing, actually Bible talking, this is exactly what he is now showing. We already talking, and look all the topics that we already talked about. You see this entire mapping that he's doing. And what we have to understand, that this is what's going on constantly in our life every day on. This is what we do. We touch everyone that we meet. We touch everyone that we speak. We touch and interact with each part of nature that we see and connect with during the day. So there's a lot of information being shared. So the question is, what do we share? And the question is, what do we hear? What do we pick up? And what Hugo is really beautifully showing right now is this is how not only the internet works, which is actually a copy of the original, and this is the energetic blueprint behind all of this. This is what all animals and all nature can tap in all the time. This is exactly what he is now showing. Is that all animals, as long as they're really connected to this grid of energy, they can get all the answers. It just depends on which steps you take, but this is how you can follow the threads that Hugo is now making. But you can find all the answers in there. So for us, the first step is to be aware. The second step is to open our heart, to really start caring. Because as soon as you care and you're aware, you change. Yeah. And at this point, I would love to, Hugo, if you have time, because I see you're really, really busy, could you maybe explain a little bit more about what you're exactly making? Because this is my interpretation, but you're the creator of it. So could you please show us a little bit what you have been doing till now?
Sure. So I think the brain interpretation, it's a mind map. and I'm just mapping the conversation in a way that I'm curating information and I'm connecting it as it flows. A more, let's say, shamanic interpretation of this will be that I'm trying to weave the energy and the consciousness of humanity, so we can make use of this energetic flow that is called internet, so to put together all these conversations around our consciousness and about the things that we need, because I felt that we're lost, and we're lost because of technology in many ways. So my own call was how to use this energy of technology and business in order to help humanity to connect our knowledge, I think, and to bridge in between science and indigenous culture. So what I'm doing now is a dream that came true. And it was a vision that I had without knowing that it was going to be about you. But this is what I always wanted to do, like talking about these interesting things and talking about reality. This is the way that the world is, and using technology to underline visually and to make it beautiful as the flowers. So maybe you don't need to think in mathematics, like the flower and mathematics. When you see a flower, it's just beautiful. So I believe if we can make knowledge beautiful, then it's going to be easier for everyone to understand. So after this, it's going to be open, and whoever wants to come and explore it, so you can explore it in one or many ways. And this will be, for example, the starting one and how we are connecting with nature. So you have different entry points. We're talking about humanity, love, and a paradigm shift, especially like from the side of reconnection and this idea of the grid of energy. And one of the shamans in the Amazon call it more like the book of knowledge, where they actually have access to what we want to make as a cloud, but it is there and has been there for many civilizations and generations over time. So I hope we can quiet our cleverness at some point and try to speak from our hearts. And this is an attempt to have something that it doesn't come from a database, but that actually let us speak our hearts visually and digitally.
What I've always learned is that you leave something or end something more beautiful than you started. And if I look at this grid that you're now building, and I look at the words that you made blue, with the business, the nature, the humanity, the love, and the paradigm, that is the essence, which bases, of course, in the indigenous culture. But it's beautiful to see how this mapping is highlighting, so that at the end we are indeed ending this conversation more beautiful than how we found it. Because this is, you can really see it in the physical now.
And I think it helps a little bit to the chemistry of the brain, because whether we are able to read everything, our brain, it is able to read everything at once. So our subconsciousness is getting it, and then we'll make it conscious. So I think there is when I think myself as a shaman, I think this is my magic, and this is the way that I can contribute from where I am, which is in Belgium right now.
And in a sense, this is also very beautiful what you now talk about, because if I see what is the biggest difference in general between humanity, humans, and let's say the animal world, the natural world, is that we humans, we think always in past, present, and future. So we think on this line, yeah. So right now we make a decision about what we're going to eat based on what we ate yesterday or what we ate this morning. So this is even simple based like past, present, future. But this also means that you're using old information, and which is not accurate at this point. The natural world is aligned differently. They work like this. So that means they're connected with the universe themselves and Mother Earth. So if you put those two lines on top of each other, you can see there's only one small point which is overlapping, so that we humans and the natural world misunderstand each other is very logic because we only have one small point at this point. So what we need to do is go from this worldview of past, present and future. We have to go back to the now. And this is also like what you're showing now with this map, but this is now. And based on your subconsciousness, you make the decisions on now, because your subconsciousness has been registering from your birth till now everything that it has been seen, experienced, what it has been not even consciously registered by your brain, but still your brain has registered it. Your subconsciousness has registered it. So trusting your subconsciousness in this case makes more sense, because your brain can only remember part and not the whole of your whole life. And especially like me growing up in Northern Europe, which is fully different than the background of you guys. But we have really learned to trust only our brain and not to trust our heart. And what we see right now, thank God, is a big shift going on here in Europe from our mind back to our hearts, and people start to trust their subconsciousness more and more. So for you to map this out and to show this is really important, because this is now, this is happening now, and not in the future or in the past. Walter, can you relate to that?
No. Yes, sure. It's very interesting how you put it, like, because like you said before, we are nature, right? We are part of nature, but at the same time it seems that we are more and more disconnected from nature. And the way you put it, the thing about our mindset in the past, present and future, it's a pretty good explanation. It's like we're living this almost fantasy world, disconnected from nature, and that's something that at some point we have to hit the brakes and start coming back. That's something that I'm worried every day about it. That's why I kind of ask you.
Yeah, well, the thing is, what the animals always tell me is like, why worry about something that you need to do, let's say next week, because next week you're a different version of yourself than you are now. With in other words, you are now yourself, your basis, and between now and then you have the extra set of skills needed for that event or for that, let's say, a job interview. So you will be equipped fully, perfectly on that moment, ready for that task. With other words, why worry about what's going to happen? Because trust the universe that it will provide you with exactly what you need to be at that point. And this is how animals live. Yeah, exactly. And this is what I mean, that they are connected with the universe themselves and Mother Earth. And it saves us humans a lot of thought and a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety if we would shift into this. And there's another part that I would like to address, is that if you look at the laws of creation, what you give attention to grows. So if we now put a lot of attention to stress and failure and maybe not capable of doing something, then this is what we tell to the universe that we want to happen, which is actually the opposite of what we desire. But because we live in this linear past, present, future, we kind of intend to create what we don't want to happen. But for the universe, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. It's about creating experiences. So the question is, what are we experiencing and what are we creating?
Exactly, and it's funny because when you go to all these like Buddhism and all this Eastern spirituality, that's all they talk about it, right? They talk about it. It's about the present. You are gonna be a different version of yourself. So why worry that much? And you connect with the indigenous as well. Like Krenak now, he says that he always tried to talk without thinking, like, because he said the thinking it gets in the way. So every time he goes, even in a one-to-one conversation or a live or whatever, he just start talking whatever comes to his heart. And you have to be brave, I mean, to do that, right? It's almost like to disconnect from all this mess, trust yourself, and just go and talk whatever comes through.
Yeah, well, they call it also in a lot of indigenous tribes a hollow bone. So that whatever comes through, it comes through. But you have to understand that's only possible if you are not attached anymore to any of your own personal negative experiences or positive, so that you can really step aside and become this hollow bone. Because if you still have trauma or feel traumatized about some subjects, and you start to speak like that, but on the way there's some trauma hitting, it will be colored, what you talk about. So you first have to do a lot of clearing up with yourself and be really centered and peaceful within yourself. Otherwise you cannot do that. So it's not only a courageous man, this person that you're talking about, but also a person who has done a lot of healing on himself.
And that's all they do, right? I mean, like, especially in this culture, this tribe, most of them, but this one that I know more, it's almost like they're healing and curing themselves in a day-to-day basis, like all their rituals and everything.
But it's a life cycle. It's like, this is why we're here. We're here to experience how it is to be humans, and therefore we can also make mistakes. And therefore we don't have to be perfect the first time we try, because this is why we're here. We're here to learn. And we have to allow ourselves also to learn these experiences and to be joining life and enjoying in life. And it's true that, especially for indigenous cultures, it's part of their way of living, but it's only evolving. They're evolving themselves each day, learning from the experience. And like I said, that makes them ready for whatever comes to the future, because they're not stuck. And the reason why they're not stuck is because their heart is open. And in modern society, most people have a closed heart. So therefore they're stuck, and therefore they're stuck in their trauma. But you can see that also in big cities a lot of times.
Yes. So we have a very present ghost here in our meeting, and he's sharing like a lot of questions. This ghost.
Bring it in.
So I'm starting to ask some.
Yes.
First, remembering that's what we are talking about, from human to life-centric worldview. So one of them is, would a life-centric worldview be at the same time hyper-local and widely planetary? And what would that mean for one's life? What are your thoughts?
Oof. Yeah, Hugo, can you maybe say something?
Of course. I think we need to depart from the point that everything is connected. So making this separation of local and global, it is almost as saying that things are not part of the universe. So if it's just for our understanding, then of course we need to go from the bottom up and top down. Both approaches are right, and there is no wrong or right in nature in general terms, just to state it. But we need to see that whatever we do is having an effect in someone else. So whatever we eat, whatever we feel, and if we are not conscious about it, then we keep committing mistakes without knowing, without noticing. So I think the most important part rather than just global and local, is the self. Because we have to come from ourselves and trying to bring the best out of us. And the change starts within me. And then from there I can try to do my best to have these ripple effects. And as you were talking about this shaman or this indigenous leader, that he's talking with his thoughts, with his feelings. So the intention is actually creating a vibration that if you can clean it out of traumas, then it becomes more powerful. And I think this is where actually the question should be vibrating. It is more on how can we vibrate in a frequency that allows us to regenerate what we are. And by doing that, we will regenerate nature amongst our species. Yeah.
Great, love it. Another one? Okay, let me get another one. There's a lot of talk about transcendence, but what about the walk? In your perspective, how does transcendence relate to a regenerative worldview?
Even though we talk a lot about transcendence, it is very practical and it is very daily based. It's like if you go to the supermarket and you buy something and you ask yourself, am I really going to eat this? Am I going to honor this product that has been growing? Or is it better to leave it for somebody else in the store, for instance? It's like simple things like that. If I go to the supermarket, I feel which one is perfectly for me, to nutrition me. And I buy only those that I feel is really good for my body. So transcending can be very practical. It's like feeling while walking in nature, which path to take, left or right. Just feel and really connect which way to go. Because apparently if you go in a certain direction which you feel is more flowing, you'll meet somebody and you may even have a beautiful conversation with somebody which could affect that person. So transcendence is not only really to go into this higher state of being, but it's actually, for me, it's very practical. It's more about bringing this here, bringing it down, and to, like I said, really connect with me being in the center. So how can I serve the earth with the information that I get from the universe? So I'm more on the ground, doing a lot of things than instead of being up there. So to transcend is more to be honest with yourself, and also like Hugo just mentioned, is that raising your own vibration and to feel whatever you're doing has added something beautiful to the world. So any thought that you have, is it creating beauty? Is it creating something positive? Anything that you do, does it create something beautiful? Is it creating something positive? And if at the end of the day you can say that you've added a lot of beauty and a lot of positivity to the world, you had a good day. But that can also be just by talking to a friend on the phone.
No, I believe that as well. And following on that, as time goes by, we kind of meet a lot of people that believe in those same things, that are working there. I think this experience here it's one great example of that, and all the people we're meeting here. So we are not all of the people, but we are a lot of people, and I think we are kind of growing. Do you think we should be putting a little bit more effort in connecting us? I mean, connecting people that believe in regeneration, that believes in transcendence, and are trying to walk in this path as well? Or this is gonna be more fluid and it's happening despite what efforts we're doing? I don't know. Do you think it's because and bringing a little bit more about myself? I'm all about connections. Like my whole life, I'm kind of doing connections, and that's the position that I like to put myself in, because I think that we're kind of dispersed. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are doing things, and it's great because they're doing things. But I feel that if we want to shift this way a little bit more in this direction, I think we need to be more together. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
For me personally, but I would love to hear Hugo's point of view about it too. But for me personally, it's more like there has been already said so much, and there's said so much out there, that sometimes I feel I'm becoming more shy and more silent, just like the animals I represent, because for me it's like it's all known. And but then when I speak to my councils, they say to me, no, you have to be out there, you have to speak, and you have to represent us, because what today, for instance, this beautiful product that we're making right now, this beautiful talk together, will resonate and have a certain frequency, and it will resonate with some people who are listening to this right now, who are seeing this, who feel it in their hearts. And it will not be the same if we will not make this, because then we will not touch those specific people. So in a sense, yes, it's important that we do talk about this, but it can also be in a small group. It doesn't have to be in a bigger scale. The most important thing is that if you feel touched and you share that with your environment, it has this ripple effect. So that means that you touch somebody else's heart, and they feel inspired and empowered, and they will touch somebody else's heart. So it's almost like mouth-to-mouth commercial, but then in a different way. This is like one of the oldest ways of communicating. But I do really feel that most of it is common knowledge shared by a lot of indigenous cultures. And it's not something from the past, like I said before, it's from the future. So if we start educate ourselves and really feel what resonates with our soul, with our essence, with our heart, then we change from within, and then we can share it also together with friends and family, etc. But we live in a world that is overflowing in information, so it can also have a side effect that those who are very sensitive are getting overwhelmed and they shut their hearts. So this is also something that we have to be aware of, that everybody has their own truth, everybody has their own responsibility, and everybody has their own way of experiencing the world, all in their own pace, because we're all humans, we're all, in that sense, souls who are having a human experience. So it's really on your own level, and all you can do is just be your best vibrant you, and that will resonate, and you will attract from that point of view those who want to interact with you. But Hugo, could you share your point of view on that? Do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things, and I think I'm gonna make a little twist, but I do see indigenous cultures as all organisms living in a specific place. So I think that we need to listen what their cultures has been developing over time, so to learn from them. So for example, the wild boar community, the wild boar nation, or the flamingos nation, or the elephant nation. There are so many of them that they have been able to build communities and to stay there without harming the whole system. And so when we extrapolate that into humanity, we need to follow the example of those that has done it in a similar way. So they have found a harmonious way to live within. And something that I like from these cultures is that not for being the last one, you are the one that knows the most, but it is because you are the last one, you are just learning about how to be. And I think this gives us like the right space for us as humanity. We should be more humble and to learn from them. And another way to see it on this vibration. So I remember in Montana I had this experience with my group in the forest in the night when I met a deer family, and this group of deers, first of all, they were scared of us until they realized that our vibration was more positive than negative. So they went close to us and they spoke to us with the mind. So it was really interesting because it was not just happening to me for once, it was happening to the group. So it is as if you can expand on the field of communication, so you can make this gift for others in the group. And they were telling us in two different moments with two different set of people, because when we come back to the group, they couldn't believe, so we went back. So they were telling us that they were going out by night now because during the day they've been hunted. But they also had families, so they showed us their offsprings and their little ones playing around. So I think for me that was a crucial moment in my life, because I learned that of course we all have families. So whatever you are doing, killing A or B, you are taking that part of that family. And the same happens in a forest with the trees. So when we are just taking one tree from a forest, a mother tree, then we are taking out all the wisdom that is there. And that wisdom will not come back if we see it in a linear way of thinking. It will take another 100 years or another 1,000 years. And it's something that the capital cannot pay. So you cannot make time go faster in many ways. So my question, and just turning back the conversation also into Walter, like if you understand that the community that is out there, we are all living organisms, how a financial schema, financial market, impact investment fund will work towards those stakeholders instead of just humans?
Yes, sure. I think that's really complicated because it's part of the whole thing we're living, right? When you think about financial markets and everything, it was built on the wrong premises, right? And now we're trying to fix all that. So it's something that I think I relate with everything we are talking about here. Like you have to start small, you have to start close in small groups, and you have, it's the same challenge. You have to start changing the way you deal with those things. I think in the small spectrum, in your community, in the companies that are around you, and then relates to other groups that are doing the same, and hope that we're gonna fix. Because I don't know, I was wondering what are the animals telling us about all of this. Like, are they worried or no? They're just chilling, and what are their 2 cents?
Well, nature has, of course, a very different way of seeing than we do. For instance, we really have, well, what COVID for now is doing, for instance, is really making us aware of our habits and our normal way of living, and that we are changing our habits. Like, we used to all go to offices. This was normal. This was the standard. And nowadays, everybody's working at home, and we kind of find out that that's also possible for a lot of us. So it's all about looking at our habits and how can we change them in different habits that is not harmful for anyone from the universe. For instance, the animals itself, they find it very disturbing, the concept of holiday. Because if you go on holiday, and I try to have these conversations with let's say, a cat, and I'm saying to the cat, well, your owner is going to go on holiday. That means somebody else will take care of you for 2 weeks. And then they just ask me, why? And they said, well, she needs to break from her life. She needs to break from her work. And this cat really becomes very disturbed. And they said, but if she's so unhappy, then why does she not change her life? And this cat has a point. So then it's really difficult for me to explain saying, yeah, okay, but... And so I try to explain that this is how society works and stuff. But it puts a lot of questions in my mind saying, yeah, she has a point. So, of course, holiday is beautiful if you want to experience different cultures, if you want to experience different climates or animals, whatever, but not to escape your own reality. And so the more I spoke with the animals, the more I became humble and understand how less I know and how ignorant humans can be in that kind of way. Also about COVID, and I've said this example to Hugo, for instance, especially here in Holland, is that we buy a lot of vegetables in plastic first of all, so we already throw away a lot of plastic. Then we have this paprika or capsicums or whatever, and we cut them through middle when we're gonna cook. We take out the seeds, and we have learned that the seeds, this is garbage, so we throw away the garbage. Yeah, but this is how our mindset has been used here in Europe. And the animals nowadays tell to me or ask me stuff like, why don't you just put the seeds back in the earth? You know, you have a balcony, you have a garden, just put them back. And maybe out of the 20 seeds, 3 plants will grow. But then you bring back some more beauty into nature. And when we're talking about transcendence on a practical level, this is what I'm talking about. And the same, for instance, and this is a little bit out there for some people, is that we have ticks here. And if there's one animal who's kind of misunderstood in a lot of ways, then it's a tick. We have been learned, our mindset is that a tick is a very disturbing animal that we don't want around us, especially not on top of us. But if I'm talking to the tick itself tells me that it's actually cleansing your blood. And it's helping to get all those particles out of your blood system that are not functioning well. So therefore it's actually helping us. But, and again, this is what they have said, this is not my personal opinion, but they have said that the Lyme disease that has been given to them by someone or something is making them now look in a bad way. But at the same time, they say our essence is very positive. And so if you see a tick, please check your blood. See us as an indicator that something might be going on with your blood. So if you see us, don't kill us, put us back in nature so that we can be an indicator for somebody else instead of killing us. So these are little things that the animals are saying to us over and over, and especially also in these times of COVID. So I really would like to invite you all that if you see an animal in a very specific way, so it's flying really close to your car or really sitting next to you, or the beautiful deer that Hugo is talking about, just Google it, see what it means, because it has a message for you for that day. It says something about how your day will be and what will happen for you in that day. But there are a lot of ways how humans think differently than animals, and one of the biggest misunderstandings that we have, and I think that Hugo can relate to that, is we are so busy in our minds that we try to create 2 things most of the time at the same time. We call it multitasking, but actually it's creating chaos, because we cannot create functionally, because what we think, what we feel, what is our intention and what is our action is completely different. So, for instance, a lot of times when in modern society, when you walk with a dog, you're walking with your dog, you have your phone on, you're talking to somebody else, at the same time you're talking about the experience you had at your job, you feel the anger again about a remark your colleague was making, and at the same time you're thinking, okay, I have to do some sports or maybe the wash. And this dog is thinking and looking at you like, what you're saying is so different than what you're doing, it's so different than what you're feeling, so why the hell should I listen to you? Yeah, because what you're doing is not in sync. So this animal goes and do it their own way, and then somebody comes to me and say, yeah, my dog doesn't listen. Well, maybe you start communicating differently. And it's not only that the dog then will start listening, the entire universe will start listening. If what you do is connected to what you say, is connected to what you feel, is connected to what you think, is connected to what your intention is and what your desire. So if we create on that level, and we are aware on that level, of what we are intending to do, and what is the consequences, like Hugo pointed out, consequences of our actions and our thoughts, then we have a whole different way of understanding the world. And this is what I believe that we can learn from nature. And if all of us has this mindset, we're done.
Amazing, amazing. So at this point, I'd like to break the protocol and invite Vini to the conversation, just to say a little bit about his impressions so far, and maybe ask a question for our guests. Can I do this, Vini?
Well, you see, there are a couple of them, but we're already heading to the top of the hour of this OOcast experience. But I prefer. I don't know if you guys heard about Tyson Yucamporta, the book Sand Talk. Have you heard about him?
No.
I have a quote from his book that is very interesting, and I'm going to read this quote because I think this fits well with what you just said, Marieke. So let me open here.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. For me, the concept and historical practice of civilization is basically that of a society institutionally negotiated at the political level with or without Plato by the extractive and accumulative economic arrangements that must be in constant growth or will enter into collapse. And therefore, it depends on the constant importation of resources in whatever ways and means, if you know what I mean. It's all I can find in common in all these places called civilizations. And they all behave the same way, and they have this growth-based imperative, this growth-based paradigm. And it's impossible. And it's a denial of reality. It's a denial of physics. It's a denial of everything. If you want a definition of evil, I think it's probably a good one. It's just a denial of reality. Well, I mean, we have a very different concept. In Aboriginal Australia, here, we have a different paradigm, and it sounds similar. It's just a very subtle difference. And instead of growth-based paradigm, we have an increment-based paradigm. If you took an Aboriginal map of Australia, there are about 500 different countries and different languages, dialects. We actually have annual increment ceremonies that we do to organize all these behaviors and get everyone on the right page with it. And also to create a model, I think a simulation. I'm trying to translate this into your language, a simulation in our ritual space of what needs to happen in the ecosystem for the increment to occur. So now, increment is different from growth because you don't want to size the system to increase, but you want the relationships across the systems as well as your exchange to flourish. That, yes, needs to increase. And the increment is infinite in nature. So I think it would be like this. If you want to get smarter, you don't need to grow a big brain. You just have to make more narrow connections, sort of. Allow yourself to expand, increment. So that's what's in between is incremented. End of quote. So it's a fantastic book, guys. I really think that you must read it. It's called Sand Talk. We will probably have Tyson Yucamporta having his own OOcast experience in the near future, because I know some folks that knows him. And we're already talking about it. But and he, as you, Marieke, he is Aboriginal. He feels Aboriginal, and he's the guy that's making this move, not only to have a grasp, because he was educated in Aboriginal way in Australia. So and he's how I say, he's matching up his cosmopolitan worldview with his Aboriginal culture. So he's a very nice place, right? He's a very inspiring place, actually. So I just shared this quote just for you guys to comment, and Walter, for you too. And we can head to the finals here, to the final point of this OOcast experience. And after you guys comment about this quote, it would be nice for you, Marieke, and you, Hugo, to make yourselves a very, let's say, unusual question that you never did, right? So, what question I never made to Hugo, or what question I made to Marieke, and we will finish it. And at the end, Walter will ask you guys to see if you envisions other folks that would love to have this OOcast experience, just to expand it, right, as a social peer-to-peer technology all over the world. So that's it. That's for the ghost time. My ghost, my manifestation ghost mode here. And it's up to you now, guys. Let's end this. This is very beautiful. Wow, I love it. Let's go.
Thank you. And I take the liberty of being the first because there's something that really resonated with me that I really felt that I wanted to address. And you're talking about languages. And this is something for me is really interesting. Like the Sami shaman that I work with, they have over 100 words for snow. So can you imagine if you have 100 words for snow, how specific you can be about a certain snow, but also how limiting it is if you just call it snow. They also have no word for he or she. So imagine a language that is not saying he or she. So just imagine what language is doing to our perception. And the language of the heart has no limitations. So I would love to invite all of you, if we're talking about making this shift from human-centered to life-centered, that we make the shift from using words to using feelings. Because there is no limitation in that. And this is what I would love to address, and I would love to recommend Jan Goswami, my co-creator, co-founder of Nature Economy, to be next in line to speak, because as he represents the last officially European indigenous tribe, I would love to have him have this space and talk further about that. So thank you both thank you all, including our ghosts, for having me. And I would love to ask Hugo an extremely weird question, to say it like that. If you have to call yourself a plant, or if you have to relate to a certain plant, which plant would you be?
Salmon tree.
Nice.
Yeah. This is the one that has been visiting me since I'm a kid, and it holds my family, my, let's say, present family. So I've been under its shade for many years and has been taking care of me. So I think it's about, I trick a little bit because this question was asked when I entered to the biomimicry program. And I had it completely clear in my mind that it's about the salmon tree.
Can you state that the lemon tree is your family too?
I don't know, maybe. Yeah. Like I don't have the answer. But you say salmon trees or lemon trees. I've heard lemon.
Lemon tree. Lemon.
No, I've heard lemon, but you say lemon or salmon?
Yeah, lemon.
I don't know. But they might be all family. I mean, if my understanding of science is right, they have discovered that we have 20% of the same DNA of the trees. And if it's also right in the way that they think about universal communication language with bacteria, and we are more than 90% of bacteria, and they hold this universal communication molecule, then who is who?
Exactly.
We are all related in a way. So maybe my question to you would be, is not that I haven't asked, but it is a new one maybe. I just realized that in the United States they are about to accept that there is extraterrestrial life happening, and which is a big breakthrough, because that might have the potential of really shifting the paradigm, especially of human-centered religions, in many ways, because then the system that we know as life or the system that we know as religion it doesn't hold anymore. And that goes back to Copernicus and this kind of thing, so it is not all centered in us. So have you heard also these voices of the galactic beings, and do you think they also have the same kind of language, or how does it work for you?
On different levels, you have, of course, their voices are very same as any other voice, but at the same time, it's also because most of us here on Earth are extraterrestrial. We came here to have a human experience, so a lot of indigenous tribes also believe that we come from outer space, that we are what we kind of fear at the same time. So the question is more, what is extraterrestrial? So what is ET? Is it just not our own ancestors? Are it not just our own family? So where do we come from ourselves? So from that point of view, yes, they have the same voices. I have been speaking with them. I have been connected with their spaceships. They hover sometimes over my house. I can connect with them. So for me, that it's becoming common knowledge is beautiful. And we know that we are being guided and helped by them in a lot of ways. And of course you have also the light codes that they use, and if you look especially on Facebook, for instance, that more and more the light codes are coming to us, which is a beautiful way of writing their language. And if you focus and with an open heart, you can read it. And this is the most interesting part, because it makes words in your mind. And if you haven't tried it once, just look on light codes. Even on Facebook there's a lot, and just watch them, the descriptions, with an open mind, and you can really read them.
And Walter, do you see a future of abundance? Like, do you think we can make it from capital to life towards abundance?
I'm hoping. No, I really believe that. I don't know if it's a logical belief, maybe it's a feeling or instinct belief, but I think something is happening, and it's kind of happening fast. I think everybody, even if they don't know, they're kind of cheering for that. They're kind of expecting that in some way. And I don't know, I think all this talk remind me a lot about agroflorist as well. Here we also call syntropic agriculture. And there is a guy here, Ernest Gosch, who kind of started developing this concept here like 34 years ago. And it's a lot of what we're talking about, all this collaboration that happens in nature. And when you try to do and force your own way, then you start having the problems, and you have to put poison and it's kind of there is no good way in this path. And I think that's what's happening with everything. We have to shift from this. And I think the quote that Vini put, it's a lot about that. Like, how do we shift from this competitive and scarcity mindset to one of abundance, right? And it's something that it's hard. Like I said, if you look at the map, maybe you're gonna be more desperate and said, oh my God, there's no way we're gonna get out of this hole. But I don't know, I think we're more than that. So I'm an optimistic. We could say that.
But isn't it also that you choose the way of things, how things flow, instead of those things that you have to struggle with? Because we have learned, especially in modern society, that only by struggle and fighting and really going for it, we gain what we want. But actually we're forcing our will on something that's unnatural. So if we would just go more with the flow and choose the flow, things go easier. And especially in the beginning, we cannot believe it is that easy. And we don't trust it then because it's too easy. But if you start to trust and really start the flow and really trust the flow and feel it inside yourself, life goes very beautiful. And then it's a beautiful ride without a struggle.
Exactly. And that's where you said the hard part is to believe, right? Because even when you try it, like you have some times in your life that you are following more the flow and you see that the abundance and everything happening and everything that you just talk about, like it goes smoothly, you have synchronicity, I think things happening. But when you, it's easy, it's almost like you blink and then you are in another mode, right? It's hard to believe in this in the flow, but that's the way.
Well, Walter, I'm going to be really harsh with you right now. It started already with the first word of your sentence. It's hard because. It's not hard because, it's a choice. So if you now choose that it's true and you're going to trust this flow and you feel now how it changes the essence, the energy, it's done.
I love your harshness, Marieke.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's a beautiful way to end this OOcast experience. Not only, Walter, food for thought, but a food for a way of understanding your own way of life, right? And I agree totally with Marieke in that sense. So it's a question of choice. Really, it's a question of choice. When you have the awareness of it, right? If you have the awareness of it, it's a question of choice. So guys, and that's it. That's it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.